everyone. In this video we're going to learn how to do an OPUS observation using our Leica GNSS equipment and Leica's Captivate. In this video we're going to cover how to set up the equipment and set up the job, collect the data, process it, review the OPUS report, and apply a transformation between the autonomous and the defined point from your report. So what is OPUS? OPUS is an online positioning user service provided by NOAA that computes your position on the Earth using the National Spatial Reference System. Okay, so the first thing I would normally do is set up a job that we're going to be using to collect all our data from. And in our CS20 with Captivate, I'm going to come over to function new job. I'm going to name our job, and we're going to apply a coordinate system. And for this example we're going to go ahead and use Massachusetts NAD83 G12B template for our coordinate system. If you do not know how to create a state plane coordinate system or don't have a template, please see the link above and watch my video on how to create this template that you can use and create for your state. Alright, so I've applied Massachusetts because I am surveying in Massachusetts, and we will be surveying on the NAD83 projection. So I'm going to store that. Okay, so now we're going to insert the SD card inside the battery compartment on your GS15 or your GS16 receiver, or 18 or 14, whatever you're using. You're going to insert the SD card in the SD card slot. Okay, so we have inserted our SD card into the slot. We're going to set up our base station over a control point. We're going to measure our antenna height. We're going to need this for the job as well as the OPUS website. So make sure you measure correctly. If you're using a fixed tripod, that's great. If you have a standard tripod, you'll need to measure from the ground to the antenna reference point, which is the bottom of the receiver. Okay, so the base station is set up over a control point. The SD card is in the slot, and we're going to come back to our controller with Captivate, and we're going to switch to the base. Okay, so under normal circumstances we'll start spin and you change over your Bluetooth connection from your rover to your base. This is just a simulator, so we're just going to go through the motions, and then we're going to go to settings, GS base, raw data logging, and we're going to check this box on. You can change your logging data every 1 second, 2 second, half second. You have so many options. OPUS website has certain limitations, but I usually use one. The raw data can be saved as a Leica format or a Rhinex, whatever you prefer. I prefer a Leica format because I've been doing that all along. So we're going to say OK. And then we're going to come over to the base setup, and we're going to go over any point. And by doing this, it's going to create a snapshot of the base station in an autonomous location, in a approximate location of state plane and ortho height. Once this has gone through, you've set the base point, the rod height, and the code. It will switch over to, it'll reconnect over to your rover. Okay, so before you leave your base setup, take a look at the icon for the SD card. Make sure it's blinking green. That tells you that you are recording data and it's collecting on the SD card. If it's solid green, that means the card is just in. If it's yellow, it means you're almost out of memory, and if it is red, you need to clean it out because you will not collect enough data and probably run out of room. Okay, so my RTK survey is done. I've collected some measurements on some points. I come to view and edit data, and you can see I got some points I measured. I'm going to say OK, and if my survey is done, I'm going to shut off the RTK data logging on the base. At this time, you need to make a determination if you feel that you need a very accurate survey or just something to get you relatively close to state plane coordinate system. With OPUS, you can do as little as a 15-minute static observation on the base or as much as 48 hours. So in this example, I've done a couple hours of observations on the base, and I'm ready to end the survey. So what we want to do is, before you just take the receiver off, we want to go ahead and uncheck that box under the base. So we walk up to the base, switch over to base, we come over to the settings, GS base, and then uncheck this, and then OK. Now that green light should stop blinking. That means you're all done collecting data. And we'll switch back over to rover. So if you just shut the receiver off and take it off the tripod, you'll be collecting data as the thing's kind of moving around. So make sure you uncheck the box and end the recording prior to dismantling the base and tripod. So we have our SD card in the controller, and we're going to take it out and bring it over to our laptop. Okay, so now the SD card is in our laptop, and we're going to come into the DBX folder, and this file that you see, M00, we call it a MOV file. It's got some decent size to it, and if you see something that's got like 12 kilobytes, then you know that's not the right file. I've noticed a couple of surveys that the MOV file is pretty insignificant and small in size. But if you did it correctly, you should have a decent sized file, and that's the file that we're going to send to OPUS. Okay, so now we're on OPUS's website. If you don't know it, it's ngs.noaa.gov/opus. You can Google it, and when you get to this website, you're going to fill it out. So you're going to choose your file. So you're going to point to where your MOV file is stored. You're going to pick your receiver type. As you can see, there are many to choose from. So in this case, I know it's a Leica GS20. There are two in this example. There's a there's a Leica GS20 and then an R2. There's the 18, the 16. So whatever you got will work. You just have to make sure it matches the receiver you have. The difference between these two is when I pick this one, it will let you know that a newer than August 2011 receiver or a serial number this or above. So if you're not sure, just read this little note and compare it to your serial number, and you'll determine if you are the older version or the newer version. Alright, earlier I mentioned to remember your antenna reference height. So in this case it was 2 meters because we were on a fixed rod or a fixed tripod. I'm going to type in my email address, and then the last two options I'm going to either go with static or rapid static. And as you can see here, for data 15 minutes to 2 hours is rapid, and for 2 hours to 48 it's static. So I'm going to go ahead and process the data using the static. Okay, so while we're waiting for our OPUS report to be emailed to us, I wanted to go over a few guidelines for understanding a good solution. You can download the whole PowerPoint presentation from NOAA's website, but I figured I'd just pull out a few key points. One is make sure that at least 90% of your observations are used. Also make sure at least 50% of the ambiguities are fixed, and make sure the overall RMS seldomly exceeds 30 millimeters. Next thing I wanted to discuss was when can you upload your survey to OPUS to get a report, and when you do, how accurate is it? So this slide says that it's that you can upload your data immediately, but based on past experience, I've usually had to wait because I just would get an error. So I would typically just wait till the next day, and by then the ephemeris is updated and downloaded from the core stations and able to process a ultra rapid prediction. So if you do it immediately or the next day, you'll get what's called an IGU, or an ultra rapid report, and according to the slide, you're around 20 centimeters of accuracy. If you wait 17 hours, like I said, 24 hours the following day, you'll probably get an IGR report, or a rapid post-fit report, and that's a lot better. Your accuracy is within 2 centimeters, and as you can see, if you actually wait 10 to 14 days, you'll get an IGS report, or a final post-fit, and they're saying that's within a centimeter of accuracy. Okay, so I just got my email from NGS with the OPUS solution report, and let's take a look at it. So one thing I didn't mention earlier is the file we uploaded on the OPUS website, the MU file. So the first 4 digits of the file are the last 4 numbers of the serial number of your receiver, and then the date and time stamp. And in this case, we did this on April 25th, 2016. So we started it at 1648 military time and ended at 1908 military time, so a little more than 2 hours. The ephemeris is greater than 14 days, so it's a precise or IGS ephemeris. Is our antenna. Fixed ambiguities 95. We said that the greater than 50, so we're good. And observations used, we're greater than 90%, and we're at 91, so we're good there. Overall RMS is less than 30 millimeters, so we're good there. Any information you want to know, whether it be the reference frame, under the Epic 2010, which is still current, the ITRF, latitude and longitude, WGS 84 latitude and longitude. We also have the UTM coordinates and the zone that the survey is under, which is zone 19, or state plane coordinate system, 2001 Massachusetts mainland. Just note that the coordinates for the state plane are in meters, northing and easting. Our orthometric height, or elevation, is 88.415 meters with an RMS of 34 millimeters, and it's computed using geoid 18 and relative to NAVD 88. And anyone knows that to get a true elevation on NAVD 88, you should be using a FEMA or a NGS monument, but this gets you damn close. And then it goes through the base stations that were used to prepare the report. Okay, so now we have options. We've done the RTK survey, we've done the OPUS observation, or static observation for the base, and now we need to move the survey with the base point to the OPUS coordinate. So you can do it in CAD, export all your points into an ASCII, import them into CAD, and then do your shift there, or you can do it in the controller if you want to continue to survey. So we're going to import a point into our job for the OPUS. So if you remember, I mentioned that the OPUS report was in meters. So you could do the hand calculations and convert your meters to US feet, or you could do this little cheat where you come to settings, system, regional, change it to meters. Okay, now we're gonna come to here to our view and edit data, and we're going to create a new point, and you can see that we are in meters. So we're working in the same system. So let's go ahead and create a point, call it OPUS. We are creating a destination point for our base. So 911.497. And I'm going to import my orthometric height of code. I'm going to say OPUS store. You just get a warning because you manually entered it and you didn't follow an incremental template. Alright, so you have the point, and I'm going to say OK, and I'm going to go back to settings, and I'm going to change everything back to US feet. Okay, so if I come to the view and edit data, and I scroll down and I want to compare, looks like the northing was 022, and the base was 032. So your northing's off about 10 feet, and easting was 91.4, and our base was 87. So we're off about 4 feet in the east, which is normal. Okay, so we have our base point and we have our destination point. So we're going to do a transformation. So we're going to do that under Create Coordinate System. And one step is for localization. We're going to do a classic 3D. Alright, so we need to create a coordinate system for our job. So we'll just say whatever the job is called. We'll say NAT83 job, and we're going to do a 1-point localization because we're not doing any rotation. We're just doing a shift. So I'm going to come over, say OK. Height mode, we'll do orthometrics. So the ellipsoid is state plane GRS 80. Projection was on mass state plane. We had a geoid at the time. That was the original survey. This is your point that you're shifting to. So we going from 3 to OPUS. So if you remember earlier, our base point was 3, and our new point, or the destination point where everything's going to be shifted, is the point we created called OPUS. And the local height, we're going to go ahead and use the elevation that we typed in for OPUS, which is based on the OPUS report. And we're going to say OK. It's going to shift our X, Y, and Z's. I'm going to take a look at it in this way. So our easting is shifting minus just about 10 feet. Our northing is shifting about 3.5 feet. And difference in height is about 7 feet. So that's your arbitrary coordinate that when you said earlier, when you set the job up and said you were over any coordinate. And now you've shifted it to match your OPUS report. So we're going to store. So if I just take a quick look, make sure, actually what you could do is you can come over to COGO, and we'll do an inverse and point to point as a check, and we're going to go from OPUS to 3 because that was our original point. And you can see how there's zeros across the board. So now if we come over to our 3D viewer, and zoom in, and if I pick pick the points. There's my RTCM, my 3, and my OPUS are all the same point. And if I check the properties, my coordinate system is that fictitious name that I called NAT83 job. And it's based on the ellipsoid and the mass state plane projection. So it is mass state plane, but you've applied a transformation between an arbitrary coordinate and the true location. So you're still working on the correct projection. It's just that this coordinate system would be relevant to the rest of the survey. Okay, so that about covers everything about OPUS, everything from setting it up with the equipment to uploading it, reviewing the OPUS report, and doing a transformation of your survey. I hope this answers all your questions. Have a good one.